Today's project is to take this old TR7 seat and to rebuild it. Not just recover it, but new foams, new straps, new diaphragm, and we're also going to change the color. We're going to blue. You can see it's all worn out here. This is the driver's seat, so the bolster on this side typically gets pretty beat. And it's old and it's dirty. This is original, so you know it's at least 40 years old. And my TR8, which uses exactly the same seats, has a pair of Recaros in it, which were pretty nice, but they're worn out. So I'm going to do up a nice set of original seats. And I actually bought leather for it this time too. So we're fortunate in that these are the runners. So I've got all this hardware. That's the adjuster. You got the other clamp. So the first thing to do is going to be to take off all these metal pieces. So these are 3/16 Allen wrench. That's just a Phillips head screw there. So I'll get started in on that. I've got the slide forward so we can take out these rear screws. If you're unbolting yours from the car, these bolts here are actually Torx bits, and they use a special square washer, so don't lose those either. That square washer fits down inside of the rack. And you can make new ones, but it's a lot easier not to lose. This also has the wires. This is the sensor that senses if someone's in the seat, which turns on the buzzer if you put the key in and the seatbelt's not on. And these things are long gone. I don't think anybody even supplies them anymore. So we will just dispense with those. And then we need to take off this little handle. This is the handle that allows you to adjust the rake of the seat back. And a escutcheon and a felt washer. Save these. The other thing to remove it is the headrest. I don't know if you can see that. The headrest. This has actually got a barbed kind of fitting, and you have to take the headrest off to get the seat cover off. You have to take the seat cover off to get the headrest off. So, they weren't ever designed to really come apart and put together. But what you can do is just yank the heck out of it, and it should come out. Should. There we go. Hard to see, but there's a little piece of spring steel in there and a couple of barbs that stick out here, and that's basically what we just pulled past. Oh, and look, someone left us a penny from 1980, which is probably when the car was built. It's funny, one side got to the oxygen, one side was not. So why there would be an American penny in an English car, I'm not quite sure. So could have just gotten there by accident. I've also bought new pads and covers. These are all just push-on clips, which is pretty much how this covers are held together. They don't use hog rings. But you do remember what order they come off in. It's not so difficult to figure out right here. But as we get further in, there are flaps on the inside to keep the, if you notice the center of the bucket seat is recessed on these, and there's flaps in there that keep those pieces of newer than anything I've worked on. So there's two small Phillips head screws right here that hold these end plates on. And I think we'll get those out of the way before we muck them up. We're actually going to replace these when the time comes. You can order yourself a dozen of these. They usually cost about 10 cents a piece or something like that. That's just a standard clip. Oh, should mention, Rimmer Brothers, they gave me a free hat. They have a, or at least they did, I don't know if they do anymore. On Fridays they had a identify this car kind of a thing. And I was the first person who emailed in. So that's that piece there. If you look at these, there's more. Oh, a dead mouse. How lovely. I got all these loosened off. This flap is the front of the back squab coming down, and it wraps down around. There's a bar right here, and these are circular kind of clamps. Definitely don't want to lose these. These, again, are available, but these are a bit more expensive. These are straps that are coming from the front of the cover to hold it in. Comes down here. So this is the bar that it was clipped to. This is the extension, and this is part of the foam that's on the main seat. And these has sideboards. There's actually a piece of like millboard here with a clip. So you just have to pull it down, and it has like a little J hook that just hooks on the bottom of the seat. That have sort of become one with the cover over time. And here are the side panels, the millboard. I think the kit might have a new one of these in. I don't really remember, but we'll hang on to them for now just in case we need them. So there's another screw here in the face of the side covers. Remove. This is the bracket where the headrest went in, and then this is just a protector so that when that's projecting by and somebody kicks the back of the seat, they don't punch it through. Now we're onto the lower squab. We got a ton more of these little clips. Come off just the same way, so we'll let you come back when we're done with that. Back again. So we got all the clips off. This is just folded down around the frame. This is essentially a piece of angle iron here. This is the rubber diaphragm. This is essentially the spring for the seat. So you want to replace that. Even if, I mean, this looks like it's in one piece, but you know it's 40 years old and it's all dry rotted. If it's not broken now, it will be soon enough. One good thing is, all you got to do is get a screwdriver under these and lift up, and they will come out. They're shaped like that, so the tension of the thing will come in. Oh, look at that! That's one of the square washers that holds the track in. Probably left over from when it was built new. Good. Need that part. I had to pull these out. Pull this piece off. But you can see, even though this looks like it's in one place, these thinner sections are going away already. So it's just better to buy a new one, and it should have new clips. If you use the TR6 one, you have to make some of these that are longer, but this is just 1/8 inch steel rod from your local hardware store. You just bend them up to approximate that. It's all good. I mean, there's 2, 4, 6, there's 8 clips, and if it holds even a 300-pound person, it'd be 4 for 150. It's about 35 pounds each. They're just not stressed that much. This is the sensor. This is when these cars were built, the car wasn't supposed to start if the seat belts weren't on or something, which is federal requirement. It changed, so this was some sort of seat belt interlock system, so that if a passenger was sitting without a seat belt, the car wouldn't start. But if there was no passenger, then it would start. You know, all that kind of foolishness. So this is burlap. You can often just reuse this, but you can also find it. I mean, I just buy it locally at Joann's Fabrics. It's very common for furniture building. Oh, there's the flap that came through and was woven into. When you get your new foams, they'll be in multiple pieces, and again, you'll need to feed that through, and you can see it was just glued to the foam, and then that holds that down tight so the seat looks nice when no one's sitting in it. There we go. So there's the bits of burlap. They're just tacked onto here with spray adhesive, so that you can see the marks where the staples were. It's just so that the metal pieces don't push through the fabric. And then there's a notch there that went around this round piece. There's actually the front edge of this that went against this. This is a C channel, and that went into there. So you can see 40-year-old foam. I mean, it's held up good for 40 years, but it's time for new stuff. So that's the seat torn down. Most of the time, well, these are actually pretty good. You can reuse these most of the time. Sometimes they get just really stretched out. They don't have any elastic to them sometimes, but these ones aren't bad. I think about new ones anyway, assuming that they wouldn't be good. You also want to check really closely in this area that it's not unusual for them to crack here, because people tend to, when they get in the car, they grab here and push. So if the car was owned by a bigger person, that can be the case. So what I'll need to do now, take a good look at this, clean this stuff up, probably just use the wire wheel on it, and then it'll be put. Now, you got the seat cleaned up. Doesn't seem to be cracked, so you can see the paint chip there because the metal's been stressing a little bit, but still in one piece, so I think we're good. So we'll put the straps and the diaphragms in. So the new straps have a single pin, where these used to have a double. So that's unfortunate, but that's how it goes. To try to change these over, if you really wanted to, you'd have to unbend this staple, pull that washer off, undo that, and then cut the threads on these and do that. But instead, you can do just use one. The best thing I found for these, nice big pair of vice grips. Clip it right down on the bend, and some tight unless you got the other strap out of the way. Grab it down fairly low and then you can get it in like that. See, nice and tight. This one positions behind the other ones, and it's not nearly as long or nearly as short. That one goes in pretty easy. There you go. Nice tight back section. Alright, so here's the new diaphragm. Goes in from the bottom up, which is good, which means you can actually replace these diaphragms without taking the seats apart. It's not unusual for them to go the way of all flesh. So, see how hard this one. There we go. One of the easy ways to help yourself with that is you slide the plastic bag over the foams, which are sticky, and then slide the cover over, and it helps them slide in. A lot of times you can cut the bag and get it out after, or you can just leave it in place. It doesn't really matter so much. So, I'm going to cut my burlap strips. They're 3 inches wide and just cut them to length. I sprayed them with some 3M spray adhesive, Super 71. They try to use the better stuff. I just have better luck with it. Oh, you can't use it in areas of high heat. So, like if you're trying to glue on your convertible top, like the front bows, dashboard vinyl. When this stuff gets warm, it gets gooey again. The stuff just creeps on you. So, unfortunately, you have to use like regular, not water-based contact cement. Or the other thing that works good is 3M weather strip adhesive, which is basically another kind of contact cement, but it really sticks because it's used for gluing weather stripping indoors and stuff like that. So it just seems to be a stronger bond. So, and you can get all those at the local auto parts store. So that's the 4 pieces of burlap installed. Here's our seat. All our rubber's in place. The notches I made to get around those 2 pieces of metal. That one's a lot better than this one. This one wasn't really deep enough. So, put that in the back. And that piece of metal. That's in. Now this piece. So we're going to need to spray adhesive all along in here. We need to spray along here as well. I want you to describe a center line here, and then this line corresponds with the end of that foam, and then this is the bottom. So mark the center lines here, a couple of places, and this is that central flap. So this is the end that goes to the back of the seat. What they want us to do is to glue that surface here with this seam say just slightly to the rear of that. And that's so that, you see that seam there, this seat will do this when it's all said and done. So, I actually had done that in a different method before, but hey, you know, this is what the manufacturer says, so let's try that. So we'll glue this. Same here. Give that a few seconds to dry. I've turned this inside out, so to speak. We put that down here, we'll put this in, and then the calico edge here will get glued to that. So it's all okay. So we got that glued down. Now we need to fold the edge back over. Be careful because it's kind of tight. Now like putting 6 pounds in a 5-pound bag. Alright, so we've got 3 clips in place up there. We got one of the things I noticed before is that when you take these old clips off, some of them are stretched more than others, like the ones that were just around the little bits of canvas aren't stretched out. So when you're particularly putting leather back on, I'm going to grab the ones that are a little bit wider for the leather. So what I want to do is stretch the back end next. You're going into that channel where we stuffed the foam earlier, so you got to compress the foam out of the way to push the flap underneath, because you need to wrap the leather all the way around the steel. These are still mighty tight. You want to be really careful if you do this that you don't muck up that edge. It's awful easy to do. Yeah, we got one. What I usually do is I just try to pin this in a few spots and get the whole thing stretched in on all 4 sides, and then you can go back later and put more of these things on. See, we've got our definition there. That's where those tangs are. They're looking pretty good here. So this side is hanging over. Now they're about even. So now I just need to go through and do the same here. I may have to trim this a little bit. You can see where the leather is going to interfere with the. This is the mount for the runner. So I'm going to go ahead and stretch these in, and then I'll get you guys back. There we go. There's the bottom squab in place. It's still a bit loose here because it's just lifting up on that lower foam. We've got 3 clips on all 4 sides here. We just sort of stretched it around the feet. These are the feet for the runners. I think I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of the seat, and then when we see how many clips we got left, we'll probably put a few more in here. And I probably will pull this in a little tighter after. The other thing you want to not forget is here at the back, right in there, there's little flaps. So they're not attached to anything, but you need to push them down past the foam. You can get your finger in from there and catch them from up in here. just pull them down to keep it looking neat. So I'll make off to lunch, and then we'll come back. It's not too hot. We'll get working on the back. Now we move on to the upper portion. So one of the things that I've noticed about these kits, this ridge on the kit lines up with this back bar, but the original foam, that ridge went in here. This one's going to go back here. So you're going to have to trim here because of this, because it doesn't fit in. And the other thing is, the kit has brand new replacements, but they're identical to the originals. So they won't line up with that notch either. So, I don't know, it's just kind of goofy. I suppose, you know, there's a piece of original check stuck in here. I don't know whether the foam manufacturer thinks that this is a better method, or they're just gluing them on the wrong side of this strut. I don't know, but I've had a couple of sets of foams that are all the same. They still work out all right, but you just gotta trim them back. So you gotta get this where you think it's gonna go, and then cut it here, and then you just need to trim it off of this back piece, and the same thing over there. These pieces will get glued onto the back of the foam, but I like to get the foam placed on the frame first, and then you can just put that in its notch where it belongs and get the glue on, and spray them together, glue them together. So we put those on afterwards. Anyway, so I'm going to trim this up, and we'll turn the camera back on when it's time to do the next. So here's one of my new end plates. That's what it was. This is what I've removed. Notice that I came this way a little bit. I actually had one of the old ones in good shape and cut that first, and then so I've just traced it onto here. And this fits. It still crushes in the foam a little bit, but this should work all right. So now it's just a matter, I need to glue here and glue there, put them together, hook them into the side. So hopefully the glue's dried enough on here. I know you guys can't really see this too well, but there's that notch. Get the piece of metal up into it. This piece is not wanted to glue to the metal for some reason. Hopefully it'll glue to the board. Yeah. So it's still very, very loose through here, but that's how when we put the cover on, that's going to do it. So I need to do this over on the other side, and then I think it will be time to put the covers on. So while I'm waiting for the glue to dry, I thought I'd start in on the headrest. There's two small Phillips heads here. Takes the plate off. And there's a row of staples here that need to come out. Set of staples on the inner one too. Guess I didn't want this thing to blow off in a strong wind or anything, you know. This foam is turning into gush, so I'm going to go do this over the trash can before I make a huge mess. But basically we're just going to peel this off, and there's basically a wooden paddle inside here that everything mounts around. So there it is, cleaned up. There's a wooden strip in there, is what those staples were put into. And they don't seem to be handed or anything else. Just want to make sure it's still tight, that these rivets are tight. If not, you can tighten them up. and then we'll wind up having to glue new foams on this, and then trying to get them to fit inside the new headrest covers, which is definitely like trying to put 8 pounds in a 5-pound sack. So here's the new foam. Just slides right into there, no problems. You'll notice that there's a D shape on the new cover. I'm going to match that. You'll also notice the foam is easily 15% bigger than this. So it is really difficult to get this on there and get it all nice and straight and the seams lined up and everything else. And I don't have any advice for you on that other than to work slowly and don't rip anything. So this was going to take a while. So I'll show you when I'm done. Well, I got it on. Mounted it in the vise. You can see the vise. This made life a lot easier because I could use both hands and hold one bit against my body. Turn this inside out and get it started on the top and just slowly worked it down. And it's still going to be tough. This one's alright, but I got to get this flap back far enough to staple, which will be another trick. Because I'll need 2 hands to hold it and 1 hand to staple. But it does seem to be there, and I've been trying to go up in and just sort of work the foam up into the leather on this side some, like this. It's a battle of millimeters, but it'll go. Anyway, so that took me 10 minutes to get that far, and there's a lot of stress right there, man. I was really nervous that it was going to rip. It wouldn't have broken my heart if they had made these flaps a ½ an inch bigger too. Sure would have made, they got, maybe there's a total of maybe a ½ inch overlap right here. If it had been more like an inch, life would have been easier, or the foam could have been a bit smaller. I suppose if you were feeling tricky and you had a carving knife or something, you could cut the foam down a little bit, which might be a good idea. This foam really feels like this is a bit big. This is the first time I've had a pre-molded foam insert. All the other ones I've had was essentially a sheet that wrapped around like that. So these may be a little big. But anyhow, it's on there. I'll fight with it a bit more. Just thought I'd let you know. And this should be dry now, so I'm going to go ahead and install this. Make sure that's in there. I don't know why the glue's not sticking very well today. It does seem to stick to the cardboard all right, at least. And I think that this is the connection that really matters for the overall. All this is clamped by the leather cover. Anyway, so I'm going to tidy this up a little bit more, and then we'll start thinking about putting the cover. So this all looks good. I've just started pushing this down. You just got to kind of work it down easy. Takes time. And say if you get one that's particularly tight, and this one's pretty snug, but I think it'll be alright, that if it's really tight, then just pop it back off, and the bag that we saved from the foam, put it over the top of here, and that'll help this thing glide on. It's amazing how much easier it makes. So we got it slid down. One trick I learned when it started to get really tight, you just go like this with it, run your hand down the seams on both sides. Surprising, it'll make it move that last inch you didn't think was going to go. So now, it's all pretty tight in here now. So, one of the things we need to do, if you remember, there's a split in the foam back here, and on the inside are these cloth bits. And those are attached to that front seam, so you need to reach in here, pull them out, feed them back down through the back webbing here. Looks like there's two little ones, the larger one in the center, and I expect two small ones on this side. So they come down through the webbing, and they wrap around here. So this is just an L channel here. And remember when we pulled the clips out, we were using the larger ones to do this. Well, the ones that are still skinny, we're going to want on here. So this front flap, we're pushing it through there. And you want to get this so these seams line up. So this one's trying to be that way a little bit. It's just a matter of, working it in, working it over. Take your time. Get that snurled around there. This is the other end here. And it goes. There's that small bar there, and then this big loop where the big clips were. So put that a little sideways, put a little side tension in it. These are the big round clips. Like to go on, that's for sure. You almost feel like you're just ruining everything. They have sharp points on them. You're just thinking, oh, I'm just going to rip this thing wide open. It does scratch it up a bit, but that's the way it goes. A little bit far. Looks like I pulled it over to the side a little bit too much. Those bits go together. But this bit just goes here kind of loose, so you can adjust the seat. And that's with those standard clips again. And after I finish fighting with this will just go back in here and down. And that's it. So if you want to get fancy, you can bend these clips out so the next guy trying to take this out, bend this clip out so the next guy trying to take this out can fight with it too, or you can just leave it like that so you can pull them out. And, I'm sure it's just, they'll never fall out. They're way too tight, and they'd have to fall up. They're not really particularly good as headrests, to be honest. They make them bigger and stuff, but the problem is that they always slide down. I suppose if I'm 6 feet tall, and I got most of my height is in my torso, so my shoulders are up here somewhere, so a headrest not doing me a lot of good. But I suppose shorter people, it works for them. That those giant headrests that you see every now and then, those are the only ones that would actually work for me. But that's it. Anyway, so that's about it. I got about half a dozen clips to put on here. I'm going to put a couple more on the perimeter, and that's it. Oh, and I should show you how to put these side pieces on. Okay, let me get those ready. So, you just want to wiggle these in. This side's blank, and the other side has the hole for the adjuster on it. They actually have a little flat spot on them, I suppose is where the old screw was from the one they wanted, but on this one, that's just about off the edge of the steel. So I'm going to drill it over. I mean, you can drive yourself crazy and try to get new holes in the plastic to line up with the old holes in the steel, but this is how the factory did it. They just drilled them both together and they line up really easy like that. Just like that. So, here it is, all done. Got the staples in this. It's actually not that bad. I put this the stock back in the vise and I just basically squeezed and that closed them up, and with my third hand I used a stapler. Put all these in. I did decide to tighten that one up. That's folded over. And the one first screw for these was the size I said, but everything else was in thicker metal, and it took 7/64 I think. So this kind of depends on where you hit it. So if you put it in and it starts feeling tight, stop, because they're tiny screws. They're super easy to break. There's the back. Here's the back. I mean, it's a bit dirty, but you can see that this is not too tight so that this can move. And I cleaned that up a little bit, just a little chrome polish, put that back on. There's the end plates. So that's it. So I have another one to do, but it's all the same. I'm going to put the rack back on, but that's pretty simple, 6 bolts. Don't need to show you how to do that. So, hope you enjoyed this lesson on how to recover TR7 or TR8 seats. See ya.